Hi, folks, and welcome inside Manhattan basketball for the first time of the 2013-14 season. Christian and I will joined by the head coach of Manhattan men's basketball, Steve Masiello. Coach, it's only a couple of days away. How excited are you for the season to get started?
Pretty excited. Wasn't excited. Our first exhibition game, I saw Christian on the scorer's side instead of the media side of the table, which means he could really impact the game. I didn't like seeing him there.
I didn't like being over there.
I like the new haircut.
I prefer being over there.
We're going a new look this year. I always got to get this cleaned up. We're getting there. But I'm excited.
Well, as every player has their off-season workouts to improve themselves, Coach, I know you were not happy with my negativity last year, so my off-season this year was spent trying to be a little bit more positive. So to talk about this exhibition game, noticed a lot of things that look like a lot of fun and a lot of good stuff out of this program, and I want to talk a lot about them. First, I want to talk about George Beeman and the fact that he looks like he is back, and maybe back and better than he was when he was here as a junior 2 years ago.
No doubt about it. And I think it's real obvious if you look at his box score. He had 27 points, and I don't remember the exact amount of shot attempts, but his efficiency is off the charts. Mm-hmm. Rebounding, deflections. He didn't have an assist that game, which I was bothered by, but with the new rules, which we can get into, I think every time he passed someone, they got fouled, and so you don't get credit for it. But I think he's more efficient than he's ever been. He's shooting the ball at a really high clip, and from a coaching standpoint, to see him on the court again, he had 27, and I didn't even know he had 10. Yeah. And that's the biggest compliment you can say about a player. It was the quietest 27, so that's hard to do. I think he's a different person. His leadership is where he's changed the most. Mm-hmm. He's basically telling me what to do at times, which is awesome. I love that.
How much does it change the dynamic of this team with him back?
I think you see it a lot, and more so with our perimeter, because you see almost the sigh and relief in guys like Donovan Cates and Shane Richards that they can now be complementary pieces. And as complementary guys, they're really good. Mm-hmm. As the guy, I don't know if they're there yet. It's not to say they won't be there by January, next year, next month. But this is George Beeman, Ramel Brown, Mike Alvarado's team. When you have guys to complement them, and that's what happened last year. Well, it was George Beeman's team, and what happened was he went down and you had guys who were complementing roles who had to now become the stars.
Right.
And you can only have one George Clooney.
You talked a lot about going into that exhibition game that you were going to start a freshman at point guard in Tyler Wilson. What about Tyler impresses you so much?
His maturity. He's 17 years old, and his maturity is way beyond his years. As any freshman I've played with, and I've played with some pretty good ones, coached some pretty good ones, he has not talent, not recruited, not talent, not pro potential. The day he got on campus, his ability, ready, what I call ready-made. He is ready right now as a 17-year-old freshman to play at this level. As ready as any freshman I've ever seen. He's just so mature beyond his years. He doesn't look great in drills, doesn't look great in workouts. You put him in a game situation. And the best thing he does for our team, he gets guys to run because he's always looking up to advance the basketball. We saw that in the Bahamas. But I didn't know if it would carry over. Then I saw it at Rhode Island. And now I saw it in the exhibition game. Now he's going to have, obviously, the toughest test of all, and that's the opening. But his progression is there. And I just love his attitude. He doesn't say boo. He doesn't complain. He's a quiet, tough kid, which are my favorites. And I have a real affection for the young man.
Talk about that rotation then at point guard, because you've got Mike Alvarado, obviously, and C.J. Jones, who have played at that spot the last couple of years, and then you throw Tyler into the mix.
Well, I don't have that. That's kind of been a problem. I don't have Mike. I don't have Rashawn Stores.
Right.
And all I have is Tyler and C.J. Tyler Wilson, think of him now as a third guard versus a guy playing 35 minutes. Take him down to 18 and fresh. He didn't have his first turnover the second half, 15-minute run, and he ran the team the whole night. So imagine if he's only playing, you cut his time, let's say, in half, how much, he made a lot of mistakes from a fatigue standpoint.
Right.
So my thing is, you look at Mike and Tyler, they could share the one. Rashawn and Tyler, Rashawn and Mike. You have 3 or 4 different combinations you go with at that point guard position. I think you're going to see C.J. Jones move off the basketball some and play on that 2 spot. More of a combo, when he can handle at times, but more in a complementary role. Our primary ones, I think, you're going to start to see is really Tyler, Mike, and Rashawn, and you're going to see them start to lead the team. And I think you're going to see is Tyler. And the biggest compliment is when the players want him on their team, because they know if they run the floor, they're going to get the ball. So they want to play with Tyler.
The depth of this team was, I thought, really showcased in that exhibition, and a lot of that because of the new rules and because of the amount of guys you had to throw in there in rotation. But whether it's the guys at the point, whether it's Donovan, George, Shane, Rich, wherever it is, Carlton, Ashton, Ramel down low.
Yeah.
The depth of this team really showed itself.
Well, I think your starting backcourt is out.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Alvarado and Sean Stores. They didn't play.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your starting backcourt going into the game. Your best player, arguably, fouls out and only plays 9 minutes in the round. Your ACC transfer, Ashton Pankey, who's got great potential upside, had played 12 minutes, had 10 rebounds, he fouls out. And you go on a 23 or 27-5 run with Donovan, Carlton, George, and Shane and Tyler on the field. So there is great depth. And the key for us is it's not like, and I was telling the staff this, we're not the type of team that could survive injuries or survive really foul trouble in a game of a high caliber team. But where our depth is very good is we can work you down. It's a different type of depth. We're not a depth where you say, well, Mike Alvarado's out, they're okay. Yeah. We're not that type of team. We're a team where it's Mike Alvarado, Rashawn Stewart, then you get Tyler Wilson, then you get Mike Alvarado coming back at you. So by the time, just think most teams have one really good point guard. I think we have three. So you get Mike Alvarado for the first 4 minutes fresh versus the other team's fresh. Let's say that's an even. Now you get Rashawn Stewart fresh against the other team's point guard for another 4 minutes. Probably edge Rashawn Stewart because he's fresh. Now you get Tyler Wilson against a really tired third going into the 12-minute mark now, other team point guard. Maybe Tyler Wilson, a little edge. Now you get Mike Alvarado coming back around for round two. And now you'll start to see the difference. See, that's the difference in the team. It's not a team where you say, well, they're just, they're so deep. We're deep, but I don't think we have great players. I think we have very, very, I think, from top to bottom, is George special, is Ramel special, is Mike special? Yes. But after that, I think you have a lot of like pieces. And so I'm excited to coach because it's a fun team to coach.
One of the things that a lot of fans notice, and you could hear it from the fans in that exhibition game, these games are going to be, if they're called the way they were that night, it's going to be a very long game because of the new points of emphasis.
Yeah.
How does that impact the way this team is going to play?
I don't know. I'm really against it. I don't know how it's going to, because I don't know. I'm really curious to see the consistency of it. And obviously we have to adjust to the rules, and we're going to, because I don't want to have our front line fouled out.
Right.
And you got to press as much. You want to get the bonuses early, hand checking, and I got it. But my issue with this is this: that game wasn't prettier. Okay, that game was actually an ugly game. And there's some want to make the okay, and their thing is, well, in a month from now it'll be pretty. Well, it's not going to, and let me tell you why. Until you start changing, let's say this: you have Kentucky, Florida, 7 o'clock ESPN. You have Michigan State, Kansas, 9 o'clock ESPN. You think they're going to call that game, the first game, like that one? There's no way they are.
Yeah.
Now, you start moving the games at 7 and 10 o'clock, then I'll believe these rules are holding up. But until that point, their TV's going to dominate. And so eventually the referees are going to adjust to teams. So I think for the first month and a half, you're going to see a lot of games take way too long. And I think we're going to go back to the way we were, which is what bothers me. Why make us go through this right now? You have guys who've been coaches, been preaching this philosophy the way they are for 15, 20 years. All of a sudden now everyone's become his own team. I don't buy it. I'm not bought on it, and I don't think it's helping the game. I agree the game needs to be cleaned up. There's certain things, that you just got to take away. It's gotten a little like tackle football. But that's an extreme. And I think a lot of coaches feel that way.
One of the things you've always talked about is dominating without scoring.
Yeah.
Donovan Cates is an absolute monster rebounding from the guard position, and that is, at least in that first game, that exhibition game, really impressed me.
Yeah, he was MVP of the game for us, and for that reason you just said. I thought he came in the game and just changed the tone. With his offensive rebounding ability, his defensive rebounding ability, his energy, his talking, he did every little thing to carry us through. And you got to realize, you're playing with two freshmen most of the time out there when he was out there. And I just thought he carried the team and really didn't do anything great, just really had the right mindset going in. And on a team like this where you have a talented George Beeman, and I said this to them, and you have a terrific shooter like Shane, basically relative to his position, you have a freak in Rich Williams, who's one of the most athletic young men I've ever been around. Donovan, you're going to have to understand what your role is. And he does right now. And if he can do that, he's going to be he's our X factor. Because if you can get him, I'm trying to get Emmy to kind of join in that.
Right.
If they can get that mindset of just doing all those little things, you look like a superstar. And that's what Donovan Cates has figured out, and I hope he can carry.
One of the things that you also saw from Donovan in that game, it seems as though he's really understanding the way this team is supposed to be run and almost acting as an extension of yourself on the floor.
Yeah.
How far has he progressed in terms of his leadership of this team?
It's funny. We had a rough week here. I wasn't really happy with this team. So much so where I threw the team out a couple of times, and because of that exact reason. I expect my upperclassmen to be proactive, not reactive. I expect freshmen to be reactive. I expect certain sophomores to be reactive. I don't expect juniors and seniors who have been with me three years to be reactive. They should know what's to be done, and they're to stop. They know if we go down that block, we're probably going to have a problem, so they should know, let's not go down that block. Right. And I mean that in a basketball sense. You know, they should know if they don't get to the offensive glass, coach is going to be pissed, so it shouldn't take me getting on you to go to the offensive glass. You should already know that. They should already know that if we have a side pick and roll in our zone and we're supposed to switch it, they should already be talking before the pick and roll happens. Doing it after the fact, I can do that. My job is easy. I can sit on the sideline and correct it. The purpose of upperclassmen is to handle that before it happens. Right. And George Beeman got an earful from me. Mel Brown got an earful from me. Rashawn Storrs, even though he hasn't practiced, got an earful from me. Donovan Cates got as bad as anyone. But they responded to it. And that's what I'm more proud of. You know, we've been talking a lot about life's about 10% what happens to you, 90% about how you react to it. They reacted really well.
You brought him up earlier, Rich Williams, an absolute freak athletically. Yeah. He can step out and shoot the three, and then in the exhibition had an alley-oop dunk that may have blown the roof off the place here at Dratty. How big of a key is he going to be this year?
You know, I think this year, if Rich Williams could understand, it's hard for freshmen, especially talent. He's a very highly recruited young man with great ability and a very confident young man, which I love about him. He's got to understand he's got to do the little things right now. If he can defend, rebound, kind of have Donovan's mentality, he'll look like a superstar. Some freshmen, they come in and they press too hard. And if Rich could kind of not worry about pleasing anyone, and I don't mean that in a negative way, just sometimes young men get caught, well, you know, you call your buddy up who's a freshman at another school and say, hey, I played 22 minutes and I had 14 points. That's great. They lost by 20. You know, Rich is a part of something very special. I think he has the opportunity to go down as one of the best Jaspers in a long, long time, based on what I've seen from him so far. That's a ways away, and that's a big statement, and I understand it. But he's 6'6", 6'7", he's long, he's strong, he's a great shooter. He's one of the best passers I've seen. He can play really 1 through 4. He's just got to understand the college game, and when he does, watch out, because he's going to be really good.
This front court rotation obviously is led by the 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, Ramel Brown, a guy who I think a lot of people across the MAC, if they weren't surprised, they should have been shocked that he didn't get first-team All-MAC last season.
It's ridiculous.
Carlton Allen is a freshman, Ashton Pankey in his first year, and Emi Andujar as well, who could play almost any position on the floor. This rotation, should the rules be adjusted, or should they adjust the rules, whatever it is, when it all comes together, that's a solid group of guys now.
Yeah, I think we have an A-10 level rotation. You know, I think you're looking at 3 guys right now that can play in the A-10, easily. Carlton is you know, not there yet, but he's going to be there. Do we go big, AP and Ramel, and pose ourselves? Well, it's tough to do that if they're calling every little thing, because now you got to kind of go more of skill. Now you go Emi Ramel, and now you have an opportunity with skill. Now Adam Lacey's really coming along. He had a concussion, people didn't get to see him. Now you had another 6'10" body in there that can mix it up. So I really like what we have. I still haven't figured out this team yet and how we're going to play. And a lot of it depends on our matchups. Playing a team like LaSalle, a little on the underside, switch everything. You need skill guys on the court. Probably favors more to Emi. Go against G-Dub or Columbia, bigger front line, physical. You know, so it's a great luxury to have, which we haven't always had. And I've tried to make teams adjust to us in the past. Right. It's nice knowing if you have to adjust to a team, you can do it from a standpoint of strength, not out of weakness. So if we have to go big, great. We'll go big. We'll go with AP Ramel. We can put Emi to the 3, George to the 2, Mike to the 1. You know, you want to go small? We can go with Tyler Rashawn, Mike, George, and Ramel. You know, there's a ton of different lineups. I could sit here and act like a mad scientist all day in my office and come up with all these different lineups. So it's great.
There was a point in the exhibition that I think everybody in the gym really enjoyed, because a lot of times when people watch a Manhattan game, they hear you, obviously, giving orders to the team and everything like that. There was a point in the exhibition where Carlton had a block or a rebound, one of them, and when time stopped, you called Carlton over and you met him about halfway out the court to give him a big hug with this team. How I know you love every team that you coach, but how much do you love coaching this team?
I love this team. I love this team. This team is really special. My first team was really special. It was my first head coaching team. Last year's was a rough year for all of us, and mainly because I didn't really know what I was doing, and I don't mean that I knew what I was doing. I never been around a situation like that, where it was just tough. I was talking with Debbie Gregory the other day at the volleyball game, and I said, you know what a year ago was today? I said, we didn't have a gym, we were homeless. You know, we were just getting through. You know, so last year there were just so many things that came that I was just not I didn't know how to handle this team from last year, where we left off with the MAC tournament when we lost, to Ashton Pankey grabbing me in tears, promising me we'd win it. That's when my year this year started. Then the freshmen get on campus, and I haven't seen 3 more personable guys that text me every night, kind of in a funny way. Coach, you okay? You know, like just checking on me. Just great guys who I love. To the Bahamas trip, which was an unbelievable time. To practice, to pre-season. We just, you know, you say to people, we have so much fun as a team. I mean, these are my guys. We go out to movies together. We go to dinner together. We live together. I mean, we're together 24/7, and I enjoy it. I hate leaving them. We're together all the time. I have so much fun with them. To see the big fella, you know, come in. I mean, he's so nervous. You know, he kind of slipped getting into the game. He gets in the game. And then he just brings it all right away. You know, there's no kind of, he's blocking shots, he's getting on the floor, he's rebounding, he's giving you everything I have. And that's all I ask for. These kids give me every ounce in them. And that's all a coach can ever ask for.
So as we look forward for this schedule, obviously the one thing that's going to be talked about is the new MAC, obviously with 2 new teams in Monmouth and Quinnipiac. You talked about it, and I tend to agree with you on this, taking away 2 non-conference games for this 20-game conference schedule. But how does Monmouth and Quinnipiac change the complexion of this conference?
I don't know yet. I think Quinnipiac is a program that's kind of really right there right now. Tommy's done a terrific job. He's been there and really built the thing up. And I think they're going to compete right now heavily to win a MAC championship. And they have great facilities. They have very good support. You know, they're right here, kind of in the tri-state area, obviously in Connecticut. Then you look at Monmouth. You have King Rice, who's a dear friend of mine, who's rebuilding a program. I think when he took the job, they had like 6 wins, and I'm not quite sure the number. And he's trying to rebuild it up the right way, get his guys in there and build a brand. And it's going to take some time. And so you're looking at 2 kind of different programs. How they fall in, I'm not sure yet. You know, is it duplication of Fairfield and Ryder? I don't know. Is it 2 teams that are going to come in and make a run every year and finish in the top? You just don't know. There's so much yet to be determined on it. I know you have 2 very good coaches, very, very good athletic departments in that, great facilities, they support their teams, and they want to see them do well. That doesn't pose well for me, because that means it's going to be a tough opponent. So I'm aware of that, but you had to get teams. So I understand, and Rich Enser is always normally 5 steps ahead of people, and I don't think he gets enough credit for the job he does in that capacity. So I'm sure Rich has some master plan that he might not be sharing with everyone, that kind of all the dots will connect, and when it does, we'll probably go sit here and say, I get it now.
As always, like to get the fans involved in the show, and we had a Twitter question come in from Michael on who you think is going to be the most improved player on this year's team.
You know, it's hard to say, but I think you see a guy like Donovan Cates. I think he's going to be right there. I think Mike Alvarado, before he got hurt and he had an injury, he's back. He practiced yesterday. He looked good. Mike really took the biggest jump from what I saw from last spring to now. But you know, it's funny, and so much of it goes with how the year goes. You know, what type of mental state again, how you get going. But I think Donovan and Mike probably my 2 leaders right now for most improved from last year.
When you look at this team and we talked about it, the expectations from outside of this locker room and what everybody says or predicts they're going to do, and you've said it, whether it was 3rd, whether it was 6th, whether it's 1st, that Iona is still the champs, and until then they're going to be the #1 team in this MAC. How do you temper those expectations with your team, but still let them know that they have the ability to do all of that?
Well, my whole thing for them is, you know, what I talk to my team about, and I say this in a respectful way, we don't care what anyone says outside of our locker room. When we were 3-8 last year, we didn't care what anyone said outside of our locker room, and we won 8 out of 9. We didn't care what anyone said outside of our locker room. The key is consistency. We've been consistently preaching the same thing. I don't care where we get picked preseason. I care where we finish postseason. That's all that matters to me. I don't care about who predicts and who's supposed to be the champion. I care about who the champion was and knocking them off. Those are the things that matter. I know we're going to put in the work. I know we're going to put in the time. And I know we have the talent. You also need a little luck in that formula. Stay healthy, get a couple breaks, get a in a right frame of mind to win and progress and move on in this league. So I'm aware of that. There's a major difference between kind of having an arrogance to you and a quiet confidence about you. We want to have a nice, quiet confidence about us. That's great. Listen, I am so honored, and I take it as such a compliment that the other 10 coaches would pick Manhattan #1. 10 coaches. 2 years ago, we had 6 wins here, and we were, for lack of a better word, a laughing stock. That in itself is an honor. And I didn't do it. The kids did. These young men, George Beeman did that. Mel Brown did that. Mike Alvarado did that. Emmy, Donovan, Rashawn Sir, those guys built this and got it to this place. So do we celebrate that? Yes, absolutely. But that's like saying you got to graduate from grammar school and you're in 5th grade right now. We still got more work to do. You know, and our next step now is winning the conference and the tournament championship. That's great. We've got our name back. You hear Manhattan, you know it's serious. USA Today has us 57 in the country. Terrific. Mid-major poll, 18 in the country. Great. Awesome. It means something more for our fans, administration, our alumni. But for the players and the coaches, that's not what we're about. We're about getting rings.
I was talking with Chris Williams and Keith Bullock, two guys who played on that championship team in the early 90s, and we were talking about it, had lost in the championship game their junior year, and that fueled their fire for their run the next year. How much are you using last year to fuel this year?
We are, but, you know, in the sense of this, you know, and Keith said this to me, and Keith actually spoke to the team the night before, the night of the championship game, and told us that story. And his whole thing was, don't let tonight be the reason for it. And then after the game, Keith said, it better be the reason for it, you know, next year. So, you know, like when we start practice, we have up on the scoreboard 60-57. That was the final score of the Iona Manhattan game that we lost by 3. And not because it's about Iona, not because it's about we want to celebrate losing. It's because that feeling we had that night, besides death, was the worst experience for our program. It was horrible. The flip side, it's also the best thing that ever happened in Manhattan because it got us. We were right there. We saw it. We tasted it. We knew what it would have been like. And we came a little short. So, yeah, does it help you get that extra rep in the weight room? Does it help you get in the gym on a Sunday night when no one's around? Does it make you fight through that last segment of practice? That's your motivation before. And do we talk about it? Yes, we do, because we don't want to experience that again. 1997, I lost in a national championship game in overtime to Arizona. They had a young man named Mike Bibby and Miles Simon, pretty good. Following year, we won it. And I truly think that was a major piece. Was it the reason? No, it wasn't the reason.
Right.
But it definitely helps you.
Can't believe we've been going this long talking about this team, and we have yet to bring up one of the guys who is one of the more liked guys on campus and one of the guys with one of the big smiles, and that is your sophomore shooter in Shane Richards.
Yeah.
We've talked a little bit last year. You talked about improving him to a point where he becomes the guy who can also be a layup guy, can also go in, draw contact, and be that kind of guy. How is he on that progression?
I think he's really doing well. I think, you know, he finished with 17 the other night, or 18, whatever it was. He had 5 threes. I think those were all his field goals, and he had some free throws. But in practice, his mentality has really changed. What I'm really happy with is he's kind of started to take ownership of the team. He's very vocal. He's now a leader. He's no longer this quiet little kid in the corner who just shoots when he's open. He's got a definite major change in the view of himself. It's funny, him and I have like a little book club. I read a book, I give it to him, he reads a book, he gives it to me just about mental approaches to things and different things. And he's really grown as a young man. And he's a fascinating kid, his whole approaches. I mean, we practiced yesterday. We had doubles. We practiced probably a total of 4 hours yesterday. He had film. And he's back in the gym on the gun for another hour and a half on his own. I mean, his just whole approach is really a mature approach. And I think he's a guy who you can see really start to kind of, it's funny, he goes to George every day in practice, but he also is trying to learn from George every day in practice. I think he sees himself falling into that role as the year proves on, which I want him to, and he should be. And I told our point guards, if he doesn't get between 12 and 15 shots, you guys are running the next day at 6 a.m. You know, they are to find him, and now he's starting to shot fake, put it on the floor, use his body. If you notice his shoulders, he's really started to develop. He's gotten very wide. He's put on about 14 pounds of muscle. So I'm excited about him, and I think he's a guy that kind of changes our team a little bit because it's really hard to match up with him.
I thought it was funny at the preseason event. One of the alumni there asked about is Louisville scared of us for not having them for the season opener to start the season instead with a Final Four participant in LaSalle on the road. Talk about this kind of matchup for a team.
Yeah, you know, I think LaSalle, you know, coming off the year they had, they are a great role model for our program. They went to a Sweet 16. Dr. Janine does a terrific job there. LaSalle School in Philly, great background. And I think what they are, they're a team that lost, you know, one player, a very good player in Galloway last year, but they have almost everyone else back. And they are going to be an absolute, they are one of the worst teams to schedule for an opener. I really didn't do a good help us at all. Not because of how good they are, their style of play.
Right.
They can play small, they can switch everything, they're great in passing lanes, they get out and deny, they'll take you out of your offense. They're terrific one-on-one. The new rules, if it's called that, will really benefit them because they're all great one-on-one players. Now they can also go big, you know, and they could go with a 4-5 lineup. So it's a very tough opener. the opportunity for us is great. I use it as a great measuring stick, a great barometer. We'll know 1 week into the season where we stand. I think we're way behind right now, and I've said that for a team that went to the Bahamas, and now I think we're way behind. We have a lot of work to do. I love where we can be. I love where we can finish, and I see it. It's like you see all the great ingredients, and you know you can put this great dinner together, but right now it probably wouldn't taste very good.
You said you still haven't figured out this team yet. Obviously, you didn't have Mike, Rashawn, or Adam for the exhibition game. Do you have your starting 5 in your mind for Saturday?
I care less who starts. It means nothing to me. Really, you'll know what I think of players, but who's on the court the last 3-4 minutes of a tight game, and I say that because so many things go into that. Sometimes I start guys just to get them out there, so get the nerves out and make a mistake, and just kind of see it's not that bad, no big deal. So starting to me is really more a mental thing. Certain guys need to start for their psyche. Other guys, Shane Richards hates it. Doesn't want to start. He's literally come to me and said, certain guys it means nothing to, and other guys. So starting doesn't really mean much. It's more based on a matchup, foul trouble. Do I need to save guys, protect guys? Are we going to press, not press, play man, play zone? Those are more the reasons I look at starters. If you come watch a practice, come watch us today and say, man, those 5 guys are the starters. You'll come tomorrow, I guarantee you, you'll change 3 to 5 starters. And that's just that's great. And I'm all about that. That's what competition does.
Season starts Saturday when the Jaspers travel down to LaSalle to take on the Exposed.
No, he's not coming. So don't be fooled by him. All this stuff, he's not coming to our opener, which is, to say I'm disappointed is a little much. Let us, and I have all respect for himself, but he also knows if we win, he's banned for all year. So he's out. That's it. Well, it's the bad luck of Christian.
The contest will be aired live on GoJaspers.com.
Which he will not be.
At 2 o'clock. Coach, thanks a lot for the time.